kind of death, the slow, humiliating erosion of the mind. My son, Vance, and his wife, Sloane, moved in 18 months ago to help. Vance is a decent man, but he's soft. He works as a mid-level auditor for a firm called Northwood Logistics, and he spends most of his life looking at spreadsheets and avoiding conflict. Sloane is the conflict. She's 35, looks like she stepped out of a luxury watch advertisement, and carries herself with the kind of practiced grace that makes you feel like you're standing in her way. That morning, they were packing for a 7-day Mediterranean cruise. Vance was lugging suitcases to the car, his jaw tight, his eyes avoiding mine. "You're sure about this, Mom?" he asked, checking his watch for the 4th time. The nursing agency said they could send someone over for the week. If your memory slips again... "I can handle a week with my grandson, Vance," I said, though my hands were trembling. I tucked them into the pockets of my cardigan. "I was running a lab before you could tie your shoes." Sloane appeared in the doorway then, a vision in cream-colored linen. She didn't hug me. She touched my shoulder, her manicured nails digging just a fraction too deep. "Maren, dear, I've pre-measured your herbal teas on the counter," Sloane said, her voice like honey poured over a razor blade. "One in the morning, one before bed. It's a special blend from my naturopath. It'll help with that cloudiness you've been feeling. Promise me you won't skip it?" I nodded, feeling that familiar wave of gratitude mixed with shame. I'd been forgetting things: keys in the freezer, the stove left on, the names of old colleagues. I felt like a burden. I felt lucky to have her. As their black SUV pulled out of the driveway, Bodhi stood by the window. He was holding a vintage Leica camera I'd given him. It didn't have film, but he liked to look through the viewfinder. He was non-verbal, according to the 3 specialists Sloane had hired. They called it selective mutism, triggered by developmental delays. He lived in a world of silence, and I lived in a world of fog. The moment the car turned the corner, the house changed. The tension didn't leave, it just shifted. I went to the kitchen to make that first cup of tea. I watched the water turn a muddy, dark amber. It looked thicker than chamomile should. I reached for a spoon, but my grip failed. The Leica camera, which I'd set on the counter, swiped off the edge. It didn't just fall. It hit the tile, and the internal lens housing shattered. A $5,000 piece of German engineering, ruined because my fingers felt like lead. I sank to the floor, my eyes stinging. I was a failure. I was an object to be managed. That's when I felt the hand on my wrist. That's when Bodhi whispered, "She's waiting for you to sleep." I froze. I didn't breathe. I looked at him, and for the first time in years, the special needs mask was gone. This wasn't a child who didn't understand. This was a child who had been hiding. "Bodhi," I whispered, you can talk." "I have to be quiet, Grandma," he said, his voice small but perfectly formed. "If I talk, she says the men from the hospital will come. The ones who took the man in the blue car." My mind raced. "What man, Bodhi? What are you talking about?" He led me to his room. He didn't go for his toys. He crawled under his bed and pulled out a small leather-bound planner. I recognized it immediately. It was Sloane's. "She hides it in the vent," Bodhi said. "She thinks I'm playing. I'm not playing. I'm reading." I opened the planner. I expected grocery lists or social calendars. What I found was a ledger of a slow-motion execution. There were dates, dosages, and chemical abbreviations I recognized from my days in the lab. LZP, DPH, ZLP, lorazepam, diphenhydramine, zolpidem, a cocktail of sedatives and amnesiacs. Beside the dates were notes in Sloane's neat, elegant script. March 14th, Increased dose to 10 milligrams. Subject reported heavy head. Vance is beginning to suggest assisted living. Perfect. June 2nd. Subject asked about the Harbor Crest equity accounts. Dosage doubled. Confusion successfully induced. October 10th. Final week. Concentrated batch prepared. If the heart stops during the cruise, the autopsy will cite natural causes due to prolonged cognitive decline. The room began to spin, not from the drugs, but from the realization that my son's wife wasn't just a narcissist, she was a predator, and my son was her unwitting accomplice. She talks on the phone at night, Bodhi whispered, sitting cross-legged on the floor. She's talking to a man named Mr. Kessler. She told him the Northwood audit won't matter once your house is sold. She says you're an asset that needs to be liquidated. I looked at the tea sitting in the kitchen. If I had drunk that cup, I wouldn't have woken up. I would have died in my sleep while they were sipping champagne in the middle of the ocean. We have to go to the police, Bodhi, I said, reaching for my phone. No, Bodhi said, his eyes wide. She has cameras in the smoke detectors. She watches the house from her phone. If she sees you leaving with the book, she'll call Kessler. He's the one who comes when people get difficult. I looked at the smoke detector. A tiny pin-sized hole stared back. He was right. I didn't call the police. Not yet. If I did, Sloane would claim I was having a psychotic break, a symptom she had been carefully documenting for 2 years. I needed more than a notebook. I needed a confession. For the next 3 days, I played the part. I dumped the tea down the drain and replaced it with weak pico. I shuffled my feet. I forgot where the plates were. My head started to clear, the chemical fog lifting for the first time in months. It was agonizing. I had to watch my grandson pretend to be a doll while I pretended to be a vegetable. On the 4th day, I used my old lab contacts. I called an old friend, Katya, who still ran a private toxicology firm. I told her I was doing a private study and needed a blood panel. I met her in a grocery store parking lot, away from the cameras. Maren, your levels are insane, Katia called me 2 hours later, her voice trembling. There's enough zolpidem in your system to knock out a horse. Who is your doctor? I don't have a doctor, Katia, I said, watching the front door. I have a daughter-in-law. Saturday evening, the cruise was over. The SUV pulled into the driveway. I sat in my armchair, the Leica camera, the broken one, sitting in my lap like a dead bird. Bodhi was on the floor, stacking blocks with robotic precision. The door opened. Sloane walked in first, glowing, a silk scarf fluttering behind her. Vance followed, looking even more haggard than before. "We're home," Sloane chirped. She walked straight to me, her eyes scanning my face, the kitchen counter, the tea tin. "Oh, Maren, you look tired. Did you finish the blend?" "I finished it," I said, my voice shaky. That part wasn't acting. "I feel very strange, Sloane. My heart is thumping, like a drum." Sloane's smile widened just a fraction. It was the look of a hunter who had finally found the blood trail. "Vance, honey, why don't you go start the laundry? I'll help your mother to bed. She looks very unwell." Vance hesitated. He looked at me, and for a second, I saw the boy he used to be. "Mom, do you want some water?" "She needs rest, Vance," Sloane snapped, her tone shifting. "Go." He left. Sloane leaned down, her face inches from mine. The mask dropped. There was no honey left, only the cold, hard reality of a woman who had already spent my inheritance in her head. "It's okay, Maren," she whispered. "You've had a long run, but you're tired. Everyone knows you're tired. If you just go to sleep now, Vance won't have to watch you. Disappear piece by piece. It's a mercy, really." She reached for the tea tin on the counter. One last cup for the nerves. She didn't see Bodhi move. He was a shadow. He reached into the bookshelf and pulled out the Leica camera. But it wasn't a camera anymore. I had spent the last 3 days gutting the broken lens and mounting a high-gain digital recorder inside the chassis. "Sloane," I said, my voice steadying, "why did you highlight the section on respiratory failure in your planner?" She froze. She turned, her eyes darting to the hallway where she'd hidden the notebook. "What are you talking about? You're hallucinating again." "And the Northwood audit," I continued, standing up. My legs were strong. My head was clear. "Does Kessler know you're using my house to cover the $3 million you embezzled from Harbor Crest?" Sloane's face went from tanned to a sickly, mottled gray. She lunged for me, her fingers clawing for the notebook I pulled from my cardigan. "You old bitch," she hissed, her voice a low, guttural snarl. "Nobody believes a crazy woman. I'll have you committed by morning. I've got the medical records. I've got the history." She grabbed my throat, her strength surprising me. She pinned me against the wall, the tea tin clattering to the floor. "Give me the book." "Vance!" she screamed. "Vance, help! She's having an episode. She's attacking me." Vance ran into the room, stopping dead. He saw his wife choking his mother. He saw the rage on Sloane's face, the raw, unfiltered malice she had hidden for years. "Sloane," he gasped, "what are you doing?" "She has a knife, Vance." Sloane lied, her grip tightening on my neck. "She's lost it. Call the ambulance." This is it. This is the moment where the truth either wins or is buried forever. If you want to see if we survive this, you need to subscribe right now. Bodhi stepped forward. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He simply held up the Leica and pressed. Play. Sloane's own voice filled the room. "If the heart stops during the cruise, the autopsy will cite natural causes. It's a mercy, really. You old bitch. Nobody believes a crazy woman." Sloane let go of my throat as if I'd turned into red-hot iron. She backed away, her eyes darting like a trapped animal's. "Vance, it's AI," she stammered, her hands shaking. "She faked it. She's a scientist. She knows how to—" "I'm an analytical chemist, Sloane," I said, coughing, rubbing my bruised neck. "And Katia has the toxicology report. You've been feeding me enough sedatives to kill a person twice my size. It's all in the blood. It's all in the recorder." Vance didn't move for a long time. He looked at the recorder, then at the wife he'd worshipped, then at the son who had been silent for 5 years. "Bodhi?" Vance whispered. Bodhi looked at his father. The silence that had defined our family for half a decade finally broke. "She told me, you'd hate me if I talked," Bodhi said, his voice trembling but clear. "She said you wanted Grandma to go away." The sound Vance made wasn't human. It was a sob and a roar all at once. He didn't attack Sloane. He simply walked to the phone and dialed 3 digits. The police arrived 12 minutes later. They found Sloane sitting on the designer sofa, staring at her perfectly manicured hands, silent. They found the special blend in the kitchen. They found the hidden ledger in the vent. Sloane was charged with attempted murder and elder abuse. During the trial, it came out that she had a history of caretaking wealthy relatives who met untimely ends. She's currently serving 25 years at the state correctional facility. Vance. He's trying. We go to family therapy twice a week. He carries a mountain of guilt for not seeing the truth, but the fog has lifted for him too. As for me, my memory is fine. My mind is sharp. I realized I wasn't losing my grip on reality. I was being pushed off the edge. But the real miracle is Bodhi. He doesn't stop talking now. He tells me about the books he read in secret, the things he saw through his camera lens, the dreams he had when he thought he was alone. Yesterday, we sat on the porch, the air crisp with the smell of autumn. He was tinkering with a new camera, a real one this time. "Grandma?" he asked, not looking up. "Yes, Bodhi? Do you think the tea would have tasted better with honey?" I laughed. A real deep laugh that felt like it was coming from a woman I hadn't seen in years. "I don't know, honey. But from now on, we're making our own." I looked out at the driveway. The black SUV was gone. The cameras were gone. For the first time in a long time, the house was quiet. Not because of fear, but because we finally had nothing left to hide. If you've ever felt like the people closest to you are the ones you should fear the most, you aren't alone. The truth has a way of screaming even when it's forced to be silent. Watch the next video on the screen to see how another perfect family fell apart when the lights went out. And remember, always check the tea.